Hello, everyone, and welcome at long last again to Design Underground.
Been a couple weeks.
We've been a little bit busy over the last few weeks, as you might have noticed. There have been a couple of pushes to Steam. I think we're on episode 23 now.
Okay.
I'm fairly certain.
Cool.
I'm Rob, Design Eponymous Irving.
Eric Wingman Schniedermeyer?
Schniedermeyer?
Peterson.
You'll notice I have a special sidekick on the show today. Sidekick.
I'm the sidekick.
We came to discuss something, very designy, but also very important to our game and to the community.
Well, we're getting a lot of great feedback.
Huge amounts of feedback, and from all corners. I mean, we're getting a lot on our forums, we're getting a lot on Steam.
Yep.
And one of the first things you always want to address when you first release a game is, is everyone enjoying it? Are you having fun? Is it really playable?
Usability,
Yes.
yeah, 100%.
And I think one of the biggest frustration points for a lot of us, including me, playing a game the other day against the Predator, this was very obvious.
Oh, God.
It is difficult to hit our ships at times.
The Predator's impossible.
The combination of shapes and speeds and weapon positioning being different on every ship. That's three things that can vary with all the different ships, and it can make for very, very difficult combat and make people get frustrated.
There's many ways to balance that between weapons, between sizes, between hit points, between shield sizes. It's just an umpteen amount of ways of going about it, and so this is going to be a process for us as we go. So one of the in fact, the first thing we had, you couldn't even, the wasp was really hard to hit. Well, we've increased that hitbox by about, what, 50%, right?
Not quite 50%. It was like 20.
Okay.
But we addressed it in two ways. A, we made the hitboxes a little fatter because of the way the calculations are done. That makes sense.
Yes.
We also redid the ship stats again with the hit factor factored into their stats.
Which is why we don't really publish ship stats at this moment, because they change a lot.
We publish them every time we do a Design Underground about them.
Yeah. We're changing them all the time, but that's again why we want the feedback from you guys out there. So we got some great got a great thread.
We have a really good thread going on our forums. If you're not on our forums, get on our forums. If you're not playing our game, why the heck not?
Yeah, what are you watching this for? Get out and go play.
Stop watching. Go play Descent.
Yeah.
So we'll put the URL up for you right here. And so Dracona started this thread. And all she did was to provide analysis of how the hits happen.
It kind of started with Custard's thread versus old versus new.
It did. And that started one that we'll come back to in a minute.
And then Dracona's analysis was super helpful, and it's also something we've been considering around the office.
Yes. So let's look at a diagram here that Dracona provided. Well, this is why this research is very good, because it's this is what happened in Old Descent. Now, keep in mind that doesn't mean this is what happens in our game.
Right.
This is just an example from
everything's
Descent.
a sphere.
Look at their ships were all treated as spheres. Now, this is a limitation of older engines for one thing, but so it was very predictable how your shots would hit those ships.
Right.
And these overlapping circles are kind of showing you what the different weapon patterns did as far as how easy it was to hit and how easy it was to do multiple hits on a single ship.
Yeah, well, all the guns were in the same places. All the ships were relatively the same
size. The lasers
size.
were pretty close together, and even with quads, that spread is not very big. It's still very easy to land all four of them on a sphere.
That's correct.
Okay, so let's look at the next shot, because now we're going to look at just our Typhoon with the same sphere. If we just swap out our gun positions and the old Descent ship, well, you've already made it a much more complicated pattern and a lot harder to land all the shots.
Yeah.
There is a single center point, basically, where you can hit all the shots. But even one shot is very difficult.
Yeah.
Now, if you take the Typhoon and then factor in what we've also added to our game, which is the shape factor, then you get a... Well, what is that shape? Would you call that? It's kind of a Y shape shooting at a Y shape.
Kind of looks like a game of jacks or something. It looks like
it is kind of a jack.
You need to drop the ball and see how many you can pick up, right?
And that is exactly the complexity of the situation, that you have a ship that is shaped very narrowly.
If you're looking head on.
Yes. And if that happens, if you're fighting someone directly, you're often going to be looking at them head on. This is pretty common. It is difficult to get around somebody if you're fighting them directly. Right. It's a lot easier when you sneak up on somebody else who's fighting somebody.
We are trying to get people, we are trying to create multiple game types where there's head-to-head. There's also people, I mean, like, if you think about World War II combat, you rarely went head-to-head. you try to gain position by being behind them.
That's off topic.
Yeah. Well, no, it isn't. This is kind of where we're going with some of the game.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, you're going to get into some head-to-head battles in the midst of even a large
100%,
battle.
100%.
And if you're in that situation with a triangular fire pattern and a triangular ship, or inverse triangular,
you're going to do a lot of dancing.
You're going to do a lot of missing.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at that graph, it's basically showing you these are all the places where this gun will not hit. And these are the very few places where this gun will hit.
Yes.
And the places where all 3 guns will hit, well, it's a very, very, very.
That's of course assuming
spot.
you're not using the spinny thing, which makes it even more difficult.
Right. if either of you is rotating,
then you're not hitting.
or both of you,
You're not hitting.
Holy,
You're not hitting ish.
You can't predict anything. Now, a lot of people have approached the game by getting really close to each other because that's where they can hit each other.
Yeah, it is a very
which makes your missiles less useful because when they explode, you explode.
They're coming. Yeah. No,
So
that's true.
So this is a very simple playability pattern that someone's analyzed for us, looked at it, and said, "Hey, here's just some graphs." I encourage everyone to read that entire thread. There was excellent discussion on that.
Stay civil, though.
Stay
civil.
Absolutely.
There are a couple sides. Now, that doesn't mean, by the way, we're going to do one or the other, but it does mean we love the civil discourse and we like to be able to talk about it. And, so we do adjust. We agree with a lot of what's being said, and we are going to be looking at how to do it. We've talked a lot about convergence is one option.
We've talked about convergence. There's a discussion in there about that.
Yep.
And our solution is never when we have a problem or we have user feedback that they're not satisfied with an element of the game. Our first answer is never run back to doing what Descent did. That is not,
right.
Don't just go with the easy answer because we have more capability than that. And we don't intend to change all our ships to be all the same shape.
Right, no, that would be boring.
And they're balanced with that in mind. Now, there can be small adjustments along the way that we can test and evaluate and say, is this better?
Which is what the Proving Grounds is for.
And so that's what we're doing right this very second. As soon as I leave this room, I'm going to run back into my office, and we are moving.
Well, Rob, what are you going to be doing?
We're going to move the hard points for the guns on all the ships that have 2 wide into the middle.
Yeah, which makes the reticle more powerful. So before we even try convergence, because Rob and I were talking about convergence and adjustable convergence, which Phil's a big fan of, and I kind of like. But at the same time, really, if you allow convergence, you're basically just making instead of the battles here, you're just moving the battles out a little ways.
Because there's still one position that's best.
That's best. Now it's adjustable each part, but that does give people a chance to choose what their best possession is, and then it's a battle of what. Anyway, so.
But then they're constantly struggling. It's like I have to be this close, and you have to be that close.
Well, that's kind of the piloting. But anyway, so what we're going to try first is we're going to move the firing points in on everything, pretty much. Which is why the Predator has been just a bitch in Proving Grounds. You can't.
The Predator.
Well, that and it had 4 guns.
Well, yeah, the Predator also accidentally had 4 guns. That is something that has since been fixed.
So Phil, you couldn't kill Phil, and he could kill you. It's like you couldn't get away. It's faster. You couldn't get away. Yeah.
The Predator was very frustrating.
It's still in Proving Grounds, though. But
yes, still in Predator. You can frustrate everyone if you'd like.
However,
we're going to be trying new guns against you.
Right, new guns. So what do you mean by new guns? What are you going to do with them?
So we're going to take, particularly on the ships that are the most egregious, like the Predator doesn't have a problem. The Wasp has a.
And that's funny because we'd actually moved them in 50% already.
They moved in from the ends of the wings to the middle of the wing.
And now we're going to move them closer to the
fuselage. Inside of the wing, just outside the nose.
Right,
yes.
Exactly.
The Typhoon also, I believe that moved from the ends of the wings to the middle of the wings.
And now they're going
That's
even
going to
further
move to the
And again,
the
this
barrel.
is a progress, right?
Yeah, they're going to move that to the barrel. And then the only other one right now, the Panzer's in pretty good shape.
It's in pretty good shape. We may move those a little bit.
Maybe a little. We might tuck them up closer to the belly so that they're a little more accurate to where your reticle is. And then the other one is the auger is way too far apart.
Yeah, that's another thing. We want the reticle to be meaningful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in modern first-person shooters, you see the reticle, you expect, okay, that's what I'm using to aim my guns.
Yes.
And so that's...
And with even just trying it out with the Wasp already, just taking a look at it to get the feel of it once I move the guns a little, which we're doing. We're not changing the artwork dramatically. We're just moving the guns for now. It's not going to look bad. It's just going to. We're not going to completely adapt the ship.
It's an easy fix. It's an easy fix for us to try. These are the kind of things we can move the firing point in easily, and then test it out and move it around to where we're happy, and then we can adjust the 3D art later. So
if we find a solution we like, then we don't want to redo the art 3 times.
Again,
no way.
Why we're doing the Proving Grounds.
Yes.
And if it's good enough, then we are happy with it, and it gets released to the general community on Steam. So it's like that's how we're going to roll.
Yep. And so we want to encourage everyone. Absolutely, we love your feedback. We want your feedback. We need your feedback.
We do.
We listen to your feedback.
We do.
And we listen to every side of a discussion. There is no right because you played more Descent than anyone else. There is no wrong because you played more Descent than there is valid discussion on both sides as long as it's civil.
It's opinions. Opinions are still opinions. Just because you have 3 or 4 people or 10 people or 100 people that agree with you, it's still an opinion. And opinions are dealing generally with incomplete information. We have a little different philosophy in what we're trying to get to here. We want our ships. Some of them are going to be harder to hit. Some of them are going to be easier to hit. Some of them, we're going to adjust with speed. We're going to adjust with firepower. We're going to adjust with all kinds of different variations to balance. So there's more to balance in our game. But again, that's what we need your help with. And so we're only a small team. We only got like 17 people. So we need you guys out there to you're part of the team.
You're helping us make this game the best. So thank you once again for hanging out on Design Underground. We will see you next time.